Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
From the hills of Bhagirathi to the Ganga of the plains, till mid Hoogli's turbid waters, your current flows and wanes. Though your spirit is the same, don't forget your ancient name, and the pines and deodars and the mountains whence you came. You come from crystal shallows and pools so clear and deep, from tossing, restless rapids where the waters never sleep, past mosques and temples white, neath the moonbeam's silvery light, as you surge your tireless way through the slumbering Indian night. From the mountains and the valleys, from your rivulets and streams, flow on, O Mother Ganga, to the ocean of your dreams. Through the parched and burnt-up plains that are waiting for the rains, past the holiest of cities with their temples and their fanes, flow on, O mighty river, till thy muddy current merges with the cyclone's foam-tipped billows, mid-ocean's tossing surges, neath the monsoon's leaden sky, where men plant and sow and die. And the power of your spirit is the storm wind's haunting cry. The glory of the Himalayas, where Ganga is born, folded, crumpled, crinkled, corrugated and twisted in 1,000 different directions, are the strata that constitute the core of this unique mountain system. And Gangotri, the source of Mother Ganga, known for its sanctity, antiquity, and ancient religious glory, is a household name all over India. From Megasthenes, who was around in 302 BC, to Edmund Hillary of Everest fame, who ran the Ganga with jet boats in 1977 in his ocean to sky expedition. Millions of pilgrims, travelers, saints and sages from many lands have flocked to the Ganga in their search for an answer to the riddle of life.
So Edmund, you have many rare distinctions, but one is that there is a point just below the summit of Everest named after you, Hillary's Chimney. And I learned the other day there's a point on the river Ganga, the sacred river, named as Hillary's Point. Now, the highest mountain in the world and certainly the most sacred river in the world, you have a part of both. Now, could you spell out the dimension of the challenge that you faced on Everest and the one on the Ganga?
Well, I think the challenge really was similar, but very different in many ways. On Everest, the challenge essentially was between man and the mountain. And the challenge also, in a sense, was between men and their own inner souls. Their overcoming of their fears so that they could overcome the physical problems of the mountain and reach the summit. Now, on Ganga, although we did have stretches of very exciting white water, in which there was certainly a degree of danger that members might be tipped out and drown and so on. The things I remember about Ganga are much more the actual social relationship that we had with the people as we travelled up the river. This was to me the most fantastic part of the whole Ganga journey, getting to know the people, living by the small villages, and also sharing in the life and the religion of the river.
Now, when you were about to begin making preparations for your ocean to sky expedition, obviously you had talked to a lot of people about the Ganga and you had read a lot about the Ganga, but when you actually were on the Ganga, did you develop any sort of particular reverence for the river?
Well, we undoubtedly did. I would have said that although a large proportion of our expedition were foreigners, and were certainly not of the Hindu religion, after we had passed through many of the great centers of Hinduism, such as Varanasi, where we were blessed many times many pujas were carried out, I think most of us, at least temporarily, had become Hindus in outlook and in thought. And this was one of the amazing experiences on Ganga, the sense that we were part of the river and that we were, in actual fact, making something of a holy pilgrimage up the river.
Now, river running as an adventure sport. You have been on the Ganga, and I don't know what your plans are for the future, but probably you'll go again in some other form because you've always been chasing adventure. What future does it hold for people who are in love with adventure coming and using the Indian rivers for river running?
I think India is particularly well supplied with rivers which are exciting traveling for inflatable boats. River running, in other words, is, I think, very much a developing sport here in India. There are a large number of tourists who come over to run many of the Indian rivers, and I think those that are both young in age and young in heart in India should take full advantage of their very good rivers. There's much excitement to be gained from them.
The first professional expedition came to the Ganga with their inflatable boats in 1976. The Indo-US Uttar Ganga expedition, led by Avinash Kohli of India and Lute Jerstead of the USA, successfully completed a 120-mile river run down the upper course of the Ganga in the Bhagirathi from Nandprayag to Rishikesh. The boats were put in the river above Uttarkashi and ran the toughest 130 miles of water in the world, sometimes encountering a gradient of over 60 feet per mile drop in elevation. River running thus made its exciting debut on the world's holiest river and established its claim as a high adventure sport and an exhilarating test of strength, experience, and expertise. Here in flashback are some of the exciting moments of the second Indo-US Uttar Ganga expedition, which was dedicated to India's late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who had inspired the first expedition in 1976.
People now, I'd say probably in the last 5 to 10 years, have been looking more to do things that have excitement and adventure involved instead of maybe just going to another country to look at monuments and things like that. And that's one of the big reasons it's caught on internationally, all over the world. It is right now the fastest growing sport in the world. In the U.S., we take youngsters as young as 4 years old, and we take oldsters as old as 82 years old. The youth of India should become involved because they are the future of rafting in this country.
I was really exhilarated by the sport, and Ken Warren was instrumental in giving us the assistance. And what we did then was so exciting and daring that from then on we started doing some river runs on the Ganges, upper Ganges, mostly from Deoprayag to Rishikesh. But we could not go after the Alaknanda or the Bhagirathi stretch because we were not trained for these sections. We think this sport can be really developed in India because according to Ken, India has the finest and the best rivers in the world, and this sport must be encouraged.
I classify the Alaknanda as one of the very toughest rivers in the world on the very upper stretches. Now, some of the lower stretches are difficult, but they can be run by trained Indian oarsmen. The great thing that you have are the Himalayan mountains, the Himalayas, drop all these beautiful rivers. You have the gradient, you have the drop of these rivers, and that's what creates the whitewater. And the whitewater is what creates the thrills and the challenge and the sport. India could, in the next few years, become the whitewater running capital of the world.
It was the first time that the 3 phases of the Ganga run were accomplished in record time, 9 days, and in chilly winter conditions. The teams were led by Avinash Kohli, India, and Ken Warren, USA. The expedition began on December the 4th, 1984, with the eastern arm of the Ganga from Nandprayag to Deoprayag on the Alaknanda. Phase 2 began on December the 9th and started from the western arm at the gorge from Teri to Deoprayag on the Bhagirathi. The final phase commenced on December the 13th. It began at Deoprayag and ended at Rishikesh on the Ganga. The runs were full of thrills and some anxious spills, but Mother Ganga was kind, and there were no casualties while shooting her rapids or riding her tempestuous, swirling waters. It was a 14-day feat that called for endurance and the highest tactical skill. At one stage, the expedition made history by covering 50 kilometers in a single day. At places, the sailing was not easy, and there were occasions when the boats were so precariously perched that men went overboard. a piercing winter chill, a turbulent river in the high Himalayas, and scores of precarious rocks jutting out of the river bed were some of the challenges faced by the 11-member Indo-US Ganga expedition. In the river, there are no conquerors. You do not conquer a river, just as you do not conquer a mountain peak. You use the power of the river to achieve what you are trying to do. Enjoy the excitement and overcome the dangers that river running offers. This water can snap an oar like a pencil. And when it is reversing, it holds the boat and throws you around till you feel that you are being churned in a washing machine. The first reaction of anybody who hits the water is panic, which lasts 2 or 3 seconds, and which can be a lifetime for a person, whether experienced or inexperienced. But if you are trained, the mind soon starts clicking again, and you immediately carry out those actions which you have been taught to do. Here on the Ganga, the expedition encountered waves of up to 10 feet, enough to put your boat upside down with all the equipment in the water should the wave hit you sideways. No matter how many years you have spent on the river, it can still upset your calculations. Perhaps not fatally, but just to win your respect again. No river, especially the Ganga, can be taken for granted. But Ganga, like Everest, cannot be taken for granted. She has to be approached with humility. To receive her blessings, those who ride on her broad bosom must believe in her mystical power to bless or destroy. It is wise to ride with the current on Mother Ganga and not against it. In 1977, the Czechs put 3 boats on the Alaknanda. They flipped and the crewmen were drowned. They forgot the golden rule. Ganga is a riverman's dream, the Everest of river running, the most exciting river in the world, offering thrills and dangers. Ganga demands skill and competence. Born to the secret heart of the mountain, where her head lies broken against Himalayan rock, there is light and peace. Where her body reclines across the plain, she surges through the sterile earth, sharing her mystery until the land bursts with shrub and tree and leaf and flower. And here there is love and worship. Where the sea bathes her feet, there is death and rebirth. By Ganga is a thin nerve-like path that twists along the plain in search of the mountain and the springing water. Ask not why men worship there. You know the reason. Ganga streams in every man. You too must live and die.